Let's get into it.
Good to see you again, mate.
Yeah, you too.
Gee, I feel like you've made some progress, but why don't you talk us through it? Because there's
Yeah,
a bit there.
yeah. So where do you want to start?
Well, you've given me some pre-work, and I think
Yeah,
I've highlighted some things that I'm keen to discuss. But I guess, if people are watching this as well, like thank you to Gordon for being open to, have that training released. We condensed it down, we blurred some stuff out, but I think people took a lot from it already, and it'll live there for a little while yet. But anyway, I think people have become then intrigued on your journey, so I thought we'd keep recording and keep it going. So let's just
yeah, cool.
at the start of this session, let's go through some of the things that you have done since we caught up and some of the things that I've already spotted. Mindset shift. You've got Google reviews rolling. You've had more work come in the door. You've got some business development underway. You've turned down $65 per hour work a number of
Yeah,
times, which would have been scary to do. And
yeah,
then the big one, I think, as well, is dropping some of the tutoring.
yeah. I needed to go up to Picton to do some work, and 2 nights a week was just getting stupid. And I talked about it ages for ages with Claire, and it was always, look, I can't do it because it's a set amount of money coming in each year. And if I drop 1 night a week, even it's half of that amount of money. And I know it's not much money and bloody, bloody, blah, but I know it's guaranteed it's there. But yeah, anyway, so I needed to go up to Picton and do some work up there. And that was stopping me from doing that to some respects because I had 2 night classes to do. So I just rang up the boss there and said, hey, look, what are the chances? And he said, oh yeah, I'll ask around, see if anyone else is keen, and when do you want to do it? And I said, well, this week would be great. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, we'll see what happens. And yeah, sure enough, someone else wanted to take the class. So that was a real and then
How did that make you feel?
yeah, like it was like the best feeling that I've had in ages for that sort of thing.
Yeah, like
It was
a
just like a
relief.
real weight off my shoulders because it was really more than anything screwing with the family life, probably more than what I thought. And Claire and the boys were really good about it, but it had just got to a point where, and I think also that screwing with the family life was also affecting probably my performance there and wanting to be there to some extent. So I probably wasn't giving it as much as what I could. But yeah, like to turn it down and say, hey, look, I can't do it, and to have someone be able to take it was just a massive relief. Um,
Was it scary knowing that you would then relinquish some of that income, which you'd sort of become quite comfortable with and in some ways rely on it?
um, Before having talked to you, it probably would have been. After having talked to you guys and actually after having done it, it wasn't. It was sort of just I got to do this, so it's just and not think about it, and it's done.
Yeah.
And let's worry about where that extra couple of $100 is going to come from now because I've got a little bit more family time to do it and that. So it's yeah, yes and no.
We'll
And
find
then
we'll find it.
yeah, well, I'm sure we'll find it easy to find. Look, and then going on from that, I have been playing with the monthly cash flow forecast sheet a lot,
Yeah.
which has been a real eye-opener. And I've gone through and put like actual figures in from July. I've taken out January and February and adjusted. So what you guys have done is just averaged everything out, which is sweet. So I've gone through and put in, yeah, like I said, the actuals and then working out because I get paid on the 20th of the month, what I think is going to come there and there. Taking out January and February because they're always crap in construction. And that's where I got done over last year to some for being quiet. And look, I'm still on the positive side at the end of June next year, just.
Yeah.
But there's still lots to go there. But that's probably been the one thing that has been a real eye opener for me is that cash flow forecast and being able to see that it's okay. But I still want to keep going with that with you today.
Yeah. We'll we'll
Yeah.
definitely dive into that. And you had mentioned that, yeah, your the cash flow analysis has got you into zero properly as well. So then it's dragged you closer to your numbers, having a look at actuals and things like that, which is incredibly important.
Yeah, totally. And like, you'd set it up to a basic extent, which is great because it got me searching for the actual numbers and working out where to find them and like what's actual and what's not, and getting into the bank account and saying, okay, well, zero does this, but my bank account's saying that, but and profit and loss and all that sort of thing. Because before I was probably only going on sales for the month, and I'd roughly worked out what my fixed costs were for the month, but that was only on a few things.
Yeah.
And so I'd just gone on sales and what I was paying myself. And okay, if I sold X amount of dollars, that covered everything. And everything on top of that was a bonus, but then without sort of factoring into the effect, into the thing that, well, most of that stuff doesn't come until the 20th of next month. So what do I do till?
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned that you had work come in the door, which I'm sure you've then modeled in as well. But where has that work come from? Like what's changed since we caught up in terms of that work coming in the door? How did it get in the door?
Yeah, good question. A lot of it was just people reaching out. I haven't done any marketing. I think the market may be getting a little bit better. I've had some work come in and picked in on the boat, and that's through a mate of a mate,
Cool.
or a mate, sorry. Um, and then the next design and build warehouse has come forward from what I thought it was going to be. So I thought it was going to be the start of next year. It's now the end of this year, which is good. But yeah, looking to really push some marketing to get some more work in the door, and referrals and talking to people. So yeah, look, I haven't done a whole heap on that front.
But you
Um,
but you have done something about the Picton piece, which is an area that you were keen to continue to explore, right? The boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I've gone up there and done a week of work up there, which is an area I'm keen to explore, and we'll talk about that
Yeah.
more in later on, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good man. Okay. So you've got I think the important bit is you can part of this too is you're seeing your pipeline, you're seeing the revenue that can come. That gives us a bit
yeah,
of financial security. Because I think a big theme that I keep picking up from you, whether it's pre-work, whether it's when we're catching up, the odd text
mm,
message and stuff, is like financial security and providing for the family and whatnot is incredibly important, but also that
yeah,
that takes a heavy toll on a bloke, right?
yeah. I think, and because I'm at that age, I guess, or that time of life that I've got a family and I've got a mortgage. Sorry, Luke.
We got to live somewhere, mate.
But yeah, look, and also a ranger that I have to pay for.
It's the over
I look.
leveraged people I worry about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's maybe why I'm here. Hey, look, yeah, totally. You've got those responsibilities. So yeah, it is a big mental toll because you're constantly thinking about it. I guess for anyone who's younger or doesn't have those responsibilities, go for it and try not to worry about that so much because the risk, like I guess the
Mm,
risk is greater for me. I can't fail, which is why mentally it is there,
yeah.
which is what I guess you're getting at. Like, there's always the financial pressure of shit, I need to put food on the table and pay the mortgage. Otherwise, it's not just me that I'm affecting. It's two dependents and a wife that I want to keep.
Yeah. I think the thing to remember though is that like as much as that can feel stressful and feel heavy, like it's also it creates a push, right? And a drive of like you have no data to suggest that you've missed mortgage payments, providing for the family, feeding them, etc. Then therefore we've got data to suggest we're probably, even if shit got hard, we're gonna find a way.
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah,
and yeah, um, like I'm not going to let it happen, but it's just
it's there.
constantly seems to be there.
Mm.
Um,
And that's the bit I want to touch on because it's
but
there bit. I think we've got to try and figure out how do we like dial that down a little bit so it's not like consuming some of your brain capacity and mental rent,
yeah,
and then we can be, and then that'll just keep getting quieter and quieter.
Yeah.
But what people do is then like it gets quieter and quieter and we're just flying over here, but then they go bang, full leverage again, back to 2 million bucks worth of debt, all of this, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoop,
Yeah.
we're back,
Yeah.
and then we've got
Yeah.
to try and
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, we'll switch this recording off in probably the back half an hour and we'll go through some of that stuff plus
Yeah.
some of your numbers and whatnot, because I've got some thoughts on it. Um, but I think it's like I think your brain might be telling you it's more of a hindrance than it actually is. And
Oh,
yeah,
totally.
my yeah,
Yeah.
what I a little bit worried for you is that like you've got so much going on that you're trying to do at once that the risk is that we're trying to do like somebody like you, your personality is like, okay, the diary of a CEO diary. You've
Yeah.
got the next advisory pod, probably the Keep the Change podcast. There's this that you're working on with me. There's like heaps of stuff, and you're trying to do it all at the same time. But the risk is that we try and do like heaps of stuff and then don't either A, do what we need to do, or B, like prioritize the things that are going to move the needle the most.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be like, over this next 6 weeks, what do you think is the will be the most impactful thing that you can do to alleviate any financial worry, plus get the business to a next iteration and to ensure that in 6 weeks' time you're happy with where you're at? What do you think that one or two things is?
Yeah. Real good question. Like even on that cash flow forecast, I guess what ticks over in my mind the most at the moment and what I think is creating the most angst in there is the fact that my bank balance at the end of the month doesn't isn't going up.
Mm,
I know that we talked about this the last time. Like I've put all these numbers into the cash flow analysis, and I've at the end of June next year, I've got surplus money. What I'm still not understanding right is I'm not processing this year's tax. So I've got a bunch of money. I know it's enough for provisional tax and terminal tax this year, but I don't seem to be able to be putting away anymore, or that balance doesn't seem to be growing to cover for next year's or this year's tax next year.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so, and apart from paying myself each week, I don't see the number growing. So I see a whole lot of personal growth for me, and like the personal growth since starting a business, and I was thinking about it the other day, it's just been amazing, like where I've come from in 2 years and then to now and then hitting you guys and all that personal growth is all good, but I don't sometimes it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere because the bank balance isn't going in the
yeah,
right direction, up and to the right.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so that's probably my struggle there is how do I see that growing that way? I want to be in a place where I can have more work that I can employ people
yeah.
and yeah, get that going. The whole idea of this for me is to have a business in 5 years' time that's not necessarily worth a bit of money, but as I could sell it and get some money out of it, or it's that I can bring the boys into it and give them some sense of ownership of it, sort of thing. Um, I think my 9-year-old is really driven in that sense, and I'd like to give him every opportunity to be able to explore the business side of things and show him that it can be done rather
So,
than
so I ask you a question then, and these are just two questions and a yes, no. Okay.
yeah.
So one is, could your 9-year-old say they were ready to work? Could they come and work for the business in 6 months' time?
They'd do it now, but that wasn't a yes no, so yes.
Okay, sweet. So then we don't really have too much to worry about because they could do it. But would you be worried that you couldn't financially afford for them to do that and for them to be paid, right?
Yeah, so obviously, um, and that's another yes.
Yeah, so you okay, okay. But what about if 6 months time would be
Yeah,
like, could we make it happen? We're probably not on the right, the business isn't ready to hire that person. But what about if they were 15 years old. So then you've got 6 years to do it. Do you back yourself that you could build the business that could hire your son?
Yeah, totally. Well, it's 3 years because the oldest is 12
Okay,
and he'll be
perfect.
coming on board in 3 years. So, yeah, I mean, that's easy.
Yeah. And that's what I guess I'm trying to highlight is like, I think you're probably the sort of person who's inclined to put a lot of pressure on yourself for things to happen quickly, which then hinders us from seeing the investment that we're making into like progress.
Yeah,
So if we just track, okay, number in bank account equal success, potentially that's not right. So if we think about it as, okay, if we have a tank full of gas in a car and if we've got to go somewhere, well, we have to use some of that gas. Now, if we get to the destination, which equals progress, but we see, oh, low petrol, and we look at it and go, fuck, like we've actually gone backwards, or we've used some of this petrol, we haven't really achieved anything. Someone would be like, what are you talking about? We're here. Like we got to where we want to go. So I think
yeah,
it might be that we need to try and find some other things for you to track to see progress, but knowing also that the money in a bank account for every business is always just the lag of the actions that they take and the decisions that they make. So it's the last thing to show up, because you've got to go find the customer. You've got to have that conversation. You've got to do good work for them. You've got to pay the suppliers. Then you've got to invoice them. And then you've got
yeah,
to collect the money. And then it's in the bank account. And that, the converting the idea to the cash, that time is different in every business. So I don't know if you do already, but I would encourage you to track your like personal balance sheet. So
yeah,
what assets do you have outside of the business and what liabilities, and track that month to month, as I sometimes bang on about, because you're going to see progress in a different form. And that'll be your mortgages decreasing. You are,
mm,
building up the household funds. There might be a bit of investment going on. There's some sharesies and stuff by the sounds. And that is a very different, layer of progress to be feeding the brain rather than, fuck, business bank account doesn't equal bigger from last month.
yeah,
This is frustrating. The
yeah,
other thing to remember too is that you're mapping out your cash flow as well. Now, that's completely different to how you previously did it because you weren't factoring in paying tax, right? So you're seeing into the future. But when you just go through business and then watch the tax account build up, it's like, oh, this is pretty epic. That's getting
yeah,
bigger. It feels great. But then we forget, oh, yeah, like we're going to have to let some of it go. So when you do forecast cash flow planning, you look at it and you kind of go, ah, shit, I'm not actually, the bank balance isn't going to be further ahead because you've had to then clear the tax. But at least it then tells us, well, we're not satisfied with that. So then we need to change something way back here to then create the result of the cash being bigger at a later date. And that's
mm,
what you're currently working on, right?
yeah,
So, but the beauty is by the time you get to April next year or May next year, you're probably going to make your third and final provisional tax payment. And you'll go, sweet, I've paid my terminal tax on 2025. That's done. And I've paid provisional tax towards 2026. You probably don't owe the IRD any more money, except, you become more profitable. You have a little bit more tax to pay and you'll be square. You've got to kind of do that double catch up at the moment, right? Of like paying based on 2025,
yeah.
therefore, paying provisionally. So you're getting a little bit of that double whammy. But yeah, progress is what we want to track, not just like final output.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
And I
yeah,
mean, I had this conversation in a different way yesterday where someone young was like, what's the, like the best thing to invest into? And I'm like, well, how do you answer that, right? Like we know the answer is ourselves, but you probably need to be a bit older. But I know that's not the answer
yeah,
he wants. But he was like, oh, what do you see getting in the way of people investing well? And I said, well, it's probably like letting go of the money. So the example I gave was, I could invest 40 grand into Bitcoin, right? And then I can track the price of that every single day and
mm,
see, is it going up or is it going down? Or I could spend 40 grand on a videographer to follow me around when I do cool shit, like go and do a keynote, go to events, speak at something, do something, where it could be recorded behind the scenes and then, but I don't know, like that's definitely going to cost me money, but realistically, it's still an investment, but I can't track
Yeah.
like, okay, what becomes the outcome of that? But then eventually in 12 months' time, someone says, oh, we saw this video, we started following you, we got in touch, can you do this keynote? All my brand presence gets bigger. Therefore, I know I can charge more in the future. And so I know my brain knows that like I have too much data to know that that will work, but you still then got to let go of the money. So I don't think
Yeah.
the game is never finished because there's always like another way we could look at it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think you'll probably have a tendency to want things to happen faster, and maybe track the wrong metric. But I reckon that come 12 months time, you'll have more money in the bank account than you would have, had if you had
Yeah.
just carried on doing, say, $65 an hour work.
Mm.
You'll have all your tax paid, and you'll have a completely different business, and you'll have a business that you could plug an employee into. There's a
Mm.
good saying that um, entrepreneurs and business people, they don't have unrealistic goals. They just give themselves unrealistic timeframes.
Yeah.
So instead of, like, could we be for certain that you'll have more money in your business bank account in 5 years' time if we take all the actions we know we need to take? Fucking oath. Like,
Yeah.
somebody stop us. What about in 5 days' time? What about in 6 weeks? Like, oh, so if we only give ourselves a short time frame, then we're probably setting ourselves up to fail
Oh,
because things take longer, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So in that grind and in that process, we've got to give ourselves data to be like, I know that this is working,
Yeah.
and it could be shit. I said this price instead of this one, and they still said yes, they'll pay it. Bang. That's like a massive win that you bank
Yeah.
because that then ends up leading to a bigger bank balance at some stage too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
but we will model out cash again at the back end of this. But I wonder too, if we can pay you more from the business, will we put you under a good level of stress to make you push harder because you'll see the number going backwards, but you'll also build up your personal balance sheet, and that could be really valuable for you. We'll play with some numbers. So that
Yeah,
would
totally. And look, going on the back of that, that's one thing that this journey has really highlighted to me. Then, not that I didn't need to know it, but from listening to more content and that, I listened to your David Neath podcast, and that was awesome. I can't believe how much that dude swears, but like.
it's unreal. Eh?
Like I said, I think I said to you, I think he must be a plumber or a drain layer.
Yeah, trapped in the wrong body. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Look, but and so instantly went out and found that book, and also read Dan Carter's book, um, The Art of Winning, I think it is.
yeah.
That's really like I would recommend that to anyone. It's just the most amazing book too. So both the books are fairly similar. I've just got through, just about to finish David Neath's book, and then I'll probably read it again and finish off doing the exercises. But both of those just have helped a lot with mindset shift,
Mm.
um, and especially David's book. I think all of us at some point in time have a victim mindset in some capacity during the day, week, month, whatever it is, and trying to get away from that is really good. And then look, I was going back over your old podcasts, and there was one about personal shit getting in the way of business stuff. And I think what you've just gone on there about getting my personal wealth in a place that's a good place that makes Claire and I feel better about the business, is really good. So I've actually gone and taken a bit of ownership of that, and it's something that I've been meaning to do for probably 10 years or more, but it just always seems to be in the too hard basket.
Yeah, but
And
uh,
and um look, not and I don't know quite how to put it, but I don't want to say that we're well off or at the other end of the scale or anything in between. I just think that we could have a better understanding and grip on our finances, and that would help a lot. So, um, I got Pocket Smith, to try and sort it all out. We've tried many times to map it out on a piece of paper, and we get to a certain point and it just doesn't work, or we don't want it to work, or something.
Mm.
I don't know. So like that's a bit of my what I've been working on personally, which is um, like I said, without going into too much detail and revealing
Yeah, yeah. But
too much stuff.
I think that like what I picked up, so without giving away numbers, like here's some
Yeah,
themes. You're like, you got no credit cards, you got
no,
no buy now, pay laters, you got no afterpays, there's no personal loans, nothing
no,
like that. You top up your mortgage, you pay extra. So you're beating the banks down saying you want to give us a 30-year loan, fuck you, we'll pay it off faster than that. And you contribute more to KiwiSaver than you need to. And you've got money invested in shares and funds. The numbers might not be massive. I don't know. We don't need to get into those. But the point being that, somebody listening to this would be like, oh, I wonder what sort of financial strain they're under. But you're doing more than 99% of people probably, but
yeah,
you're still like, oh, I don't know if it's right. And I think that's how
yeah,
everybody feels though. It's like I've got a 15 grand credit card. Fuck, I just want to pay it off faster. I want to be a millionaire. Oh, I'm only at 300 grand. Like, oh,
yeah,
I've started investing. It's epic. Log in, see someone's screenshot of their 2 million in shares. Is, oh my God, like what? Like, how'd they get that? What they do, what they invest in. Like the it's controlling the brain with what you've got. And I think you're actually like doing more than you as a household than you're probably giving yourself credit for.
I yeah, totally. And I think we probably understand that. It's just the mental shift, and yeah, I don't really, I don't know how to say it. We always feel like we've got all those extra things, but
It's not enough.
yeah, I just not that it's not enough. But it's not enough. I don't know how to like. I just Claire and I said to like we are real good with the money, and we understand that, but it's telling ourselves that, and
Mm,
yeah, how do you and shifting that mindset and doing a couple of things, and yeah, not and I think like reading that the David Neath book and just the mental side of that and getting to grips with it is I'm really looking forward to it, knowing
yeah.
exactly where the money that we're not putting away is going,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I guarantee you, if you do 6 months, I know 6 months is like, oh, it's going to take 6 months to figure it out. But if you do write assets, track assets and liabilities in the personal household budget, you'll have a completely different view of money in only 6 months. Like that's it. Like you think, how
Yeah,
long it's taking you to build this way that you think about money. You do 6 months of tracking that, you'll
yeah,
get like a new view of money that you'll go, fuck, I didn't realize this has been here the whole time. And all I had to do was just have a look each month at like, what are our assets worth? What are our liabilities? Because it's
yeah.
the same with like the cash flow planning, right? Then you
Mm.
get closer to it, and then you're like, okay, where's that figure coming from? Why did it go up? Why did it go down? Shit. Like 6 months ago, we had 20 grand less equity. I didn't even know that because you weren't tracking it. Like you don't know. And your pocket smith's probably going to do a bulk of that for you. And
Yeah,
it's like anything, you stay consistent with it and you measure it, you'll probably give yourself the validation that you are doing well. What I would suggest the other thing to think about too is like celebrate with Claire, and just celebrate some wins that you are having, or go, fuck, you know what? Like we don't, like ever go out for a nice meal, say, because we're worried that it's going to be too expensive or whatever. Well, maybe
yeah,
you've earned it. Like maybe there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe, you look at it as shit. We've got through another year of a recession without, putting in household debt, personal loans and stuff like that, and actually celebrating some of the success that you are having.
yeah. So, like, totally. We went out for a nice meal the other night, because the business had done more sales than what I tracking for last year. So,
Good man.
yeah. So, like, and I think that's real important too. Otherwise, we get too bogged down
Yeah.
and that and just like you say, we probably need to look for smaller wins rather than big massive ones.
Yeah, because like anybody else would step into your shoes and you get called privileged, it'll be lucky, it'll be, "Oh, fuck, that must be nice. What are they even worried about?" So like that's what
I
I'm But fuck how
Yeah,
they think about it. But like it's so important how you think about it because like only you'll win this battle with how
yeah,
you look at money and finance.
yeah,
And that's the same for all of us.
yeah,
Yeah, because then you'll have people who inherit like plenty of cash and then they'll go, "Oh, I don't feel worthy of it. I didn't work for it or whatever." So it's like that's the journey they've got to go on and figure out,
yeah,
okay, well,
totally.
look,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay,
So yeah, cool. I'm looking forward to that, and probably wish I'd done it earlier in life. But hey, better
mm,
time than now.
yeah,
And I think I haven't done it because it's like I said, it's been put in the too hard basket. And yes, it's hard, but only the first part.
yeah,
And first part of getting all your bank transactions for the last 3 months and working out where you spend your money. Like you said, there's all the technology out there now to make it actually fairly easy.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, in terms of a couple of things that are getting in your way,
Yep.
so you said like admin, and then
Yep.
just some of it's just the confidence of pricing and how you're adding value. Um,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
you talk me through the admin piece first, and then we'll get into the like pricing side.
So admin, I guess there's two parts of it. One part is being the sole um, worker
Yeah,
with the hat on for everything. And I'm sure lots of people can relate to this, is that when you've got lots of work, the admin is the last thing to get done because it just gets pushed to the side.
yeah,
The and again, the issue with that is that you do the work, the invoices don't get done because you're on to the next job, the quotes don't get done because you're too busy doing the current job. And yeah, like I said, the admin is the piece that's the easiest thing to drop,
but that's the
but
most
also
important
the
thing to
worst
get
thing to
done.
drop.
Yeah,
But and coming from a trade background where we just do it.
yeah.
There's always been someone there to do the admin in the background, and it's not, you don't realize the importance of it, maybe, so to speak, a little bit there. And then go, yeah, like, and then that sort of goes on to the next thing is getting the time, sitting down, working what parts of the admin are the important parts, which is and finding a place to do that without getting distracted and getting the most out of that and
Do you,
trying to make that more streamlined, whether that's with AI or processes. So, two things, I'm probably a bit slow on it and need to work out my systems and make sure, because if I want to grow, I've got to have those properly in place. And they are somewhat there, but I don't think they're perfect, which is another problem of mine, probably.
wanting them to be perfect? Yeah,
Wanting everything to be perfect before we go on to the next bit.
yeah,
And then setting the time aside. I've tried to set as much time aside since we met last, and we were going to try and put 2 days aside, but that hasn't quite worked as well as what I wanted it to.
yeah.
So I need to keep focusing on, yeah, I don't know,
Well, let's look at
drilling
it.
down on that.
Let's look at it in a
Um,
different way. Like,
yeah,
because you're going to get caught in the trap of like you have to do it. You've got to design the system. You've got to build the process. You've got to,
yep,
do it all. But eventually, you're not going to be able to, right? Otherwise, you're going to hit a ceiling. So,
yep,
could you see this business being in a place where it will hire admin support or have admin support?
yeah,
Easy, right? So then we need to do an exercise in this next 6 weeks of what would they do, okay? And mapping out what are all the things that chew up your time that you don't necessarily like doing or that you procrastinate on or that
yep,
aren't, the best use of your time to generate income, to do business development, to move the needle of the business, right?
yep,
And then we can give that to ChatGPT and say, hey, like help me turn this into a job description. And that's easy. I'll give you a spreadsheet that you can use to fill out to have a look at all the admin time. So it basically goes through and you work out like you fill in, okay, that's half an hour a week, that's an hour, etc. And you
yep,
type in some different boxes, might be health and safety, invoicing, quoting, and whatnot. And you can
mm,
see, okay, how much admin's there. That'll show you of your week, like how much that admin's getting in the way of you being the Gordon that the business needs you to be.
yep,
Now, then we go, okay, well, if that was to cost us, say, $60 an hour, which sounds like shit, surely admin doesn't cost us $60 an hour, but uh, let's just say it does. But
Yeah.
if it was 20 hours a week at $60, dollars, that's
1200 bucks.
$1,200 times 52. We got a $62,000 roll there. Now, it might not be 60 hours, but it might be that you have a weapon that goes, well, if you pay me well, then yeah, I can do it 20 hours. But if I'm paid poorly, well, I can't because I need to do double the hours to make the income to look after my family or whatever, right? So as long as we're staying away from that $65 an hour work, like we'll be able to buy with admin costs, we'll still be able to buy it back. Now, $40 may be, more reasonable. 40 times 20 times 52, you're looking at $41,000. I think you can make 42 grand back by buying your time back like very, very easily, as long as we get the margin and the pricing right. But
Mm,
before we jump to that, because we can model it financially as well to see, okay, what's it going to do to the bank balance? Because then again, you're going to have that like, shit, I've brought some admin support. Now the bank balance isn't going to get any bigger. So we've got to not be stuck at that to start
yeah.
with and know, okay. But if we at least figure out how much time is getting chewed up for admin, then what's the job description? I have a feeling that your brain, if you were to go, okay, who would do that role? You almost maybe even have somebody in mind and think, shit, maybe they could do it,
Yeah.
but maybe not. But if you do, great. But all that you'd start to do is basically, put it out to the world via your circles and
Mm,
social media or whatever avenues you've got to say, is there somebody who'd be interested in helping me with the admin for this? But I don't know if we want to like rush to the end and do that straight away. We probably want to, you know, get some of this good work, get it priced well, make sure that that it's there and keep,
yeah.
refining the business. But admin support's gonna come at some stage. So we might as well start looking at, okay, what does it look like? What's it going to cost us? And what's that going to do to the cash flow of the business?
Yeah. Cool.
So I'll give you a spreadsheet,
Yep.
and I'll show you as well. So that'll help you figure out the time. That'll help you then build the job description.
Yep.
So that'll solve that when you do that. But at least it'll give you structure of like, okay, like you might even just bolt on $10, oh sorry, 10 hours a week of admin support to start with. But
Hmm.
that might be enough for you to like completely free yourself up. To be doing other things. And could we get them to build the processes for you? Like, do you need to build the perfect process? Maybe they're better at it than you.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
like you're slow with it, well, then you're going to procrastinate on it too. Maybe they're good at it and have done heaps of it and they can go, no, let's just do it this way. And you go, oh shit, okay. You can
Hmm.
focus on doing what you're best at and they can do what they're good at.
Yep.
So we'll spend some more time talking about that shortly as well.
Yeah. Cool. No, you just reminded me of a person that I met that's in that role that I thought about the other day and I'm gonna call.
Boom. Because a good thing, remember, you've got a cash reserve, right? So, like, when we look at your
Yep.
cash flow, we can always go, well, maybe we delay one of those tax payments and invest that into this person, for instance, and pay the tax back with a bit of interest at a later date. Like, there's so many options. And you've also got some cash reserves that, you can kind of lean on anyway. But
Yep.
again, it's like being willing to get there and do that. But sometimes I say to business owners, like, are you going to need to do this in 5 years? Yep. Well, then should we start thinking about doing it now and just like speeding up getting there? Because we always kind of put off these decisions until we sort of get to a stage. But I think you're going to get to the stage anyway. So we
Yep.
might as well start exploring it
Yep.
and dipping our toe in the water.
Yep.
Um, the other bit was, yeah, being confident in how you add value and how do I market it. Um, well, I guess like, you've gone to Picton and they've said, "Oh, yeah, we'd love to have you do some work for us." Did you that the work that we spoke about the other day, did that get
Hmm.
confirmed?
Yeah. So I've been up there and done it. I need to go back.
Yeah. But weren't you pricing it the other day or were you invoicing for the
No,
work that you've
it was
done?
just a come and do.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Um,
Well, what I might do is I might
I'll tell you what, another one I had
oh, yep.
the other day that will be. So I was down at one of my other jobs, and there's a bunch of, it's a industrial area. It's seen that another tenant had moved into a leased building, and just went in there and popped my nose in there and started talking to them, and got a day's work out of them at no cost. So, well, not no cost, but how do I put it? At no advertising cost, at no competition. It was just a come and do this. We need it
Wicked.
done.
And but the cost is you being willing to be rejected.
Yeah,
That,
totally. Yeah, look, I mean, yeah, yeah, and just went
good
in there
man.
and had a didn't even start a conversation about do you want any electrical work done. Just went in there and started a conversation with them, and like and I guess, and that's a personal win for me, and because I probably wouldn't have done that in the past.
And what does it tell you? The market tells you they value what they do, right? What you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like I want to be in a space where it just make things easy for people.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to be the cheapest. I want to be the best,
Yeah.
and the most reliable. And um, yeah,
Good man. What would that day's work be worth roughly? Like thousands or
yeah,
yeah, wicked. Okay.
yeah.
And yeah, and that could lead to tens of thousands.
Yeah, fingers crossed it'll lead to more. Yeah, they said it will, so I don't believe them. And look, going on the back of that, they paid me the day I sent them the invoice. So, like, how good is that?
Yes. There we go.
And that was a business to business. They'd moved down from Auckland, and had just got a warehouse. And so, yeah, look,
Well
happy
done,
day
mate.
sort of
Well
thing.
done. Yeah. That should give you a lot of confidence and a lot of like you must have been
Yeah,
pretty
look,
stoked.
yeah, totally. A lot of self-confidence more than anything, like, yeah, you're going to get rejected, but there'll be that time that you don't,
Yep. Yeah.
and make the most of it, sort of thing.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop recording, mate, and then we're gonna get back into cash flow and whatnot. That'll just keep it easier for the team to edit because then they won't have to like blur things out and whatnot like we did for the full session.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, and then just we can basically just roll this straight out. So
Yeah.
cool, mate. I'll carry on, but I'll just hit record stop.